We're gonna actually start in a supported bridge today. So you can rest on any of your props, whether it be a bolster, a blanket, or a block. And I'm gonna suggest the legs long and the arms overhead. And I'll kind of share that transition. You don't have to maybe start there, but if you wanna go a more gentle version of this, it might be just like a bolster, and even lay a blanket on top of it. But this is gonna rest under your sit bones, whatever the prop may be. You'll come in like you prep for bridge pose. You'll lift your hips up. You'll place your sit bones, your butt onto like the center of your butt onto your block. Legs long, and then maybe you start out here with the arms a little closer, and then eventually they can get a little longer. If it feels better to have your legs bent, go ahead and bend your knees. I will leave it to you to figure out. You may have to scoot the block a little higher or lower, depending on what you're doing, but I really do recommend a little bit more towards the back of your tailbone, so lower than your sacrum. We'll get started to open up the hip flexors. All right, so in supported bridge, we'll be doing some twists on our back, so you'll keep your props nearby. If you're not using much else, you'll lay down onto your back. You'll let your head and shoulders find the ground. You'll lift your hips up, and then you'll place the pillow, the blanket, the bolster, the block underneath your butt, and then the legs will go long. Sorry about that. And notice how the hips feel, what's in contact with the ground. If your legs are long in this pose, you might feel a little more of a tug in the front of those hip flexors, the tops of the legs. You can even point your toes a little bit. The arms might be out beside you. If you'd like, you can even lift them up overhead with the back of the hands resting on the ground. The chin can be slightly tilted up. Why we're starting with the supported bridge today is because our pose of the week, our focus is that twisted posture, that supine version we're gonna go into, and that kind of mimics a back bend with the arms open. So we're just gonna start here with a gentle encouragement. We'll be here for a few minutes longer. So if you're just joining us, come onto your backs, plant your feet, lift up your hips, place your prop behind your sit bones, your back of your tailbone, and then lowering your hips back down, you'll extend the legs long and then maybe reach the arms over the head. Expanding out. Try to let the props do the work. Let the muscles, the tissues kind of melt away from the bone, the joints soften. The space between your fingers, the gap between your ears and your shoulders. Try to soften the armpits. Feel the arches release. The body's a great place to do the check-in. So we slow down, we start to observe how we are. As we repeat the exercise of finding presence over and over, we may notice any habits and patterns that exist. We discern, we dig a little deeper. Can we be more intentional? Can we pay a little more attention to how we show up? And then what we notice, are we clinging, are we grasping? The body will reveal some of that. So notice anything that's grasping, any tension that's crept in that you maybe didn't notice. Are you clenching hip one side over the other, the right side more, the left side more? Your glutes trying to support you in this pose. Can you soften a little bit more? Take a deep breath in. And a full breath out. So we really elongated the spine. I want you to be super slow. You can maybe sweep the arms forward first if they went overhead. I'm going to suggest turning your palms down a little bit, and if you can, press the back of your shoulders and your head down to the ground, and then walk your feet in 1 foot at a time. So your shins feel parallel or perpendicular with the ground. That's the word I'm looking for. Press firmly into your shoulders, your head, your feet, lift your hips up and hold. Let's move the bolster blanket gently aside. You can just push them down. So that way when you lower your hips down, they come onto the ground. Pause here, try not to hug the knees in right away. Walk your feet apart. Let your knees buckle in. Feel your low back on the ground, or your sacrum, that space there. Give yourself a hug, one arm on top of the other with the feet planted. So the feet stay on the ground, the knees stay connected, and you're just reaching for opposite shoulders with the arms. Take a deep breath in, a full breath out. Stay here, one more breath. Inhale, exhale. Switch which arms on top. Take 2 cycles of breath. And then slowly let your arms come beside you. Walk your feet into the middle of your mat, knees up. And then I just want you to scoot your hips more over to your left. So scoot the hips off to the left slightly. So you're turning onto the back of that right hip, and the outside of the right hip as you drop the knees over to the right. And then if you have your blanket and your block, I like to rest a block between the knees just because it's a little bit more firm. And then you can take your blanket under the head if you'd like, and that left shoulder. As you twist open, right arm can stay on the ground, and then you can look up to the ceiling. You can even pick up the head and turn it slightly to your left. So what that looks like, you can't see if you're a visual person. The blanket is resting under my left arm because my knees are to my right. So they're the opposite arm in the direction my knees are bent, and even a little bit behind my shoulder and my head to offer a little support. That right arm's open. You're twisting, and how much that blanket is underneath you, under that left arm is up to you. If you have a blanket and a pillow, you can place the pillow between the legs and the blanket under that left arm. And how high up you want that blanket, you can pick. We'll stay here for several minutes, so make this really as sustainable as you can. You may realize after a couple minutes you want to alter the support underneath you and Go for it, adjust as you need, but when you make movement, make it really intentional. Notice the pace of your breath. Observe anywhere you're clinging in the body. If you think that maybe not having a blanket under the arms, you've got extra props still, you can place one under that right thigh or right knee to help the ground feel a little closer and supported. Get creative with your props. As you slow down, feel what's supporting you here, the ground, any props. Notice where there's effort in the body, where it's intentional, where it's kind of crept in subconsciously. We tend to hold our the same thoughts. I think I've mentioned in the last couple weeks. I think like 90% of our thoughts are recycled, right? So they're just old thoughts coming through over and over. We just think the same things often. We start to check in with what we're thinking and how often we're thinking it. That stuff starts to plant into our body, these habits. That psychology plants into our physiology. So the fight, flight, or freeze of the body is this clenched jaw in, right, where the hip flexors clench up, the shoulders kind of round, the tailbone kind of tucks. This nature to protect that soft, fleshy part of ourselves, the exposed cells, the belly, the heart. And so we end up clenching in the same areas over and over. So observe those hip flexors, your core, your low back, around your shoulders and your neck, your jaw. It's really clinging and maybe where it once served you, but it like served purpose, and now it might be time to let go. Those recycled thoughts, the mantras, the statements we repeat to ourselves over and over. Let's take a deep breath in and a full breath out. We're going to pause in the middle. So just move your props aside. You'll take your gaze to the center. If it was off to the side, you'll move your knees, your hips, your feet back into the middle. And then just pause. Feel this moment, feel this space and time. Let's take a deep breath in, a full breath out. One more time, a nice big inhale. Just here in the center of your mats, and exhale as you let it all go. And then taking the hips more to the right. So off center, over to the right, letting the knees fall over to your left. Arms will be out to the sides, and you can place that blanket under the right arm, that right shoulder, even the right side of the head. If you're taking that twist slightly over to the right ear, the blanket, if you're not using it, you can slide it under your left knee. A bolster or a pillow or a block can go between the legs. You might need the support to look a little different on this side. So it may look like more props underneath the body or between the body, or rolled up slightly different. You might be closer to the ground and need less props, less support. Your mobility is a little different. So take note, observe. Let's find that breath in and out. A comfortable, steady breath. It doesn't have to be necessarily so controlled. We're really allowing ourselves to open up to the practice, open up to the moment. And these aren't our classes, so a rest and a reset. Can you invite a little more rest into this practice, into this pose, onto this side? Or might you be clinging, grasping, clenching, the tension creeping in? So this twist is a spiraling of the spine. There's a little more room between the vertebrae as the organs kind of revolve in that torso. So notice what's kind of clenching in the gut, the legs around the collarbone. Notice anything you're holding on to, and if there's a little more room to let go. Let's take maybe 5 more cycles of breath. 5 inhales and exhales. And you've taken that last exhale where all we're going to do is actually bring our right arm over to meet our left. So just roll over onto that left side, and the knees are to the left. Bring that right arm over, rest on your side, pause here for a moment. Take a deep breath in, and a full breath out. Maybe another round, just inhaling and exhaling, settling in, letting go, and slowly working your way up to seated. So first, we'll find a comfortable cross-legged posture with a prop, a blanket, a block, a bolster underneath your hips, just to elevate them slightly. And you can kind of tilt and tuck that tailbone a couple of times. Find a little movement there. Bring your pelvis right through the middle. Let's sit bones down, that tailbone down, your crown of your head high. And then you can walk the hands out beside you, coming onto your fingertips, even turning the thumbs more forward, broadening that collarbone. Exhale, drop left ear towards left shoulder. Take a deep breath into the right side of the neck. Exhale, press your sit bones down, your fingertips down, feel the collarbone broaden, and draw your ribs in slightly. Inhale, bring your chin to center, towards your sternum, chest stays open as you exhale. Really trying to tuck that chin in towards the chest. So the chin is working down. Breathe in. The chest might be working towards the chin as the lungs fill. Exhale. One more inhale, breathe in from your mid-back to the base of your skull. Imagine more space. And as you exhale, right ear towards right shoulder. Then maybe walk those fingers forward a little bit or off, back a little bit or out a little further. You may notice there's a little more room. Press down with those fingertips. Reaching right ear towards that right shoulder. Breathe into the left side of the neck. Breathe out. And then slowly bring your chin back through center. Walk those fingertips in a little bit. Press down, sit bones down. Inhale, lift your head up through center. As you exhale, left hand down, right arm up. Breathe in. As you exhale, bend over. Reach with those right fingers. Open up the right lung. Plug the right sit bone into the ground. Inhale, sit up tall, right hand rests. Exhale. Stay right here. And then breathe in, left arm reaches. Use the exhale to bend over. Open the left side. Left hip to left fingertips. Find a little more room. Breathe in. Soften as you breathe out. Then inhale. Let's come through center. And stay here as you exhale. You can soften the arms. You're going to work into those hamstrings just a little bit. So I would suggest coming off of your props. Just let's let those legs go long for a moment. Let's take those toes in and out. And then what we'll do is you're going to turn towards your straight left leg. You have your blanket. You can bring that. I'm going to suggest maybe on top of the left leg. You can even curl it in. And then your block, it ended up way far behind me, can come kind of resting on there. And you'll have to support yourself here as you bring your head down towards the props. And say you don't have a block, that's okay. You can just kind of hang here in space. You have really tight hamstrings. You can even place a gentle blanket. You can even have like a little towel underneath that straight left leg. And then add just a soft amount of flexion to the left toe. So it's not super flexed back. but a gentle effort so the back of the leg slightly engaged. And then you just melt in. I like to rest my bolster underneath my bent knee, and then I can rest my forearms on that, on the outsides of the leg. And I'm fairly mobile, so my head comes down and rests on the blanket. But adding a block in, even if you are mobile, might be nice to just give the head a little more support. The funny thing about this one is you'll start to feel it in your right leg as well, because the legs are long and you're folding to your left. But there's something going on with that right leg, the inner thigh, the groin, the hip. So awareness, just a scan of the body, left side, right side. Where are you holding? Where are you clinging? Where are you grasping? What can you let go of? In the body, where are you subconsciously inviting tension out of habit? You might be almost sitting up straight, okay? So this might be a lot for you just to hinge toward that leg. This is where I said, I think on the post on Facebook, it's like a chair or a table might be really nice to have something that's up high that you can kind of lean up to. You can even straddle around like the corner of a table or the corner of a couch, and use that where it's a little more upright to hold you up. And so you can feel this in the legs. Really take it down into the low body. The more that upper body folds down, it's the bigger stretch for the back muscles. Deep breaths in, long breaths out. We won't stay for too much longer. Notice where you're sinking, you're slumping and dumping. You can invite a little effort. Those places that have kind of gone limp or become lethargic. Just intention there. It doesn't have to be an active, super flexed, engaged effort. But just awareness, starting to plant our awareness into ourselves, into the moment, really fine tune it. Anything that has become tense out of habit, see if you can kind of soften there, the face, the jaw, the shoulders, the navel. Let's take a deep breath in and a full breath out. And we'll slowly sit up tall. You take your time here. You'll move what props you have out of the way. And I just want you to find the middle. I like to lean back because that was just that was bold. So I'm gonna open up a little bit. It's like the most formal yoga pose of all time. So I'm very serious today. Just open up a little. You can even rock it from side to side. You'll sit up nice and tall. And then maybe make the effort to set it up like you did on the left side, what you do on the right here. And then be willing to change it once you get in there. So you may find that you're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get into this deep stretch. And I have not warmed up on this side as much. So it suddenly was like, I did not feel so great. So I'm going to actually bring up my block and hold it a little higher. In a minute or so, you might change how you rest in this shape. You might move things out of the way. You might add them in. You might realize you want extra support just so you can let go and open up. And we really let the props do the work here so we can find a little more rest. The body can get a little more support. So you're twisting over towards your right leg and folding at the same time. breath can be a giveaway. When you think about recycled thoughts, the ones that plan us into that future state, we plan, we anticipate, we sometimes build that anxiousness in the body. And so we're on our track of thoughts and our to-dos, and we like filtered our way through. We're like reaching for the next thing to think about. Sometimes those lungs will just kind of hold on. They'll pause. They'll obviously work for you. You don't like suffocate yourself when you get lost in thought, but you might catch yourself resisting the physical movement of the breath. The shoulders might clench up, the navel, the ribs might hold in contraction. And that limits the space the lungs move in. It limits that breath. So really give yourself some space. This is a pose that explores the back body. Even in the slightest hinge, it opens up the back of where the lungs rest. It's the yin, the yang part of the upper back, the body. So just you have to breathe into the muscle, breathe into the back. Take a long exhale here. One more deep breath in. And full breath out. Slowly, you'll sit up. You'll move your props aside. Your hands will plant behind you, okay? And so, your hands will plant behind you. You can turn the fingers out, chest is open. And then I just want you to walk those feet in, bend the knees. Then they're much further, they're wider than your hips. Mine are as wide as my mat here. You're just gonna drop the knees over to the right. And then look over to your left. Take a deep breath in. Really try to get the inside of that left knee to the ground. Breathe out. And inhale through center. As you exhale, take the knees over to the left. You can look over to the right if you'd like. You can look over to the left. Really press that inside of that right knee down. Maybe feel your tailbone reach away from your heart space. And come through center. Inhale. And exhale, just let those legs go long, shake them out. Let's just find a little stretch here. Point your toes. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, come halfway down. Breathe in, point your toes a little bit more. Reach a little more forward. Exhale, come halfway to your legs. Last one, take a deep breath in. Reach a little more forward. Point those toes. Exhale, round over your legs. And then inhale. Slowly stack up the spine. Then you'll grab all the props you want for prep for Shavasana. So for me, that looks like I get a blanket coming back by my head. Woo. I'm going to suggest a block for a supported shoulder stand here for just a few minutes to invert the legs, but you also don't need a prop. So you can just come onto your back and lift your legs up. You want to move to a wall and take legs up the wall. You can do that. Or you can plant the feet, place the block or blanket. It'll be a little higher than when we started in supported bridge. So more under the flat of the sacrum. And one leg up followed by the other, extending the leg followed by the other. So these super cool socks I have on. Very cozy, keep my feet warm. Can figure out what it is you need, whether it's a wall, a prop, or just the ground supporting you. Just get the legs inverted. We'll stay for a few minutes before we take Shavasana. And when we transition to Shavasana, if you move to a wall, you're more than welcome to stay. Notice your breath. You have the urge to point and flex your feet or roll your ankles, do so. Give yourself that releasing, cleansing breath, filling inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth, kind of resetting as you need. Take a scan from your feet to your skull, out to your fingers. What has gone soft that can be energized? What's gone dull and limp? What's become rigid and firm that could become a little more malleable, a little more mobile, a little surrender there. As you've spent more time with yourself through this practice today, what patterns, what thoughts, recycled thoughts, what repetitions are there that you consciously or subconsciously plant? Where are you clinging and grasping that you might be able to let go of? Take your last few cycles of breath. If you're in supported shoulder stand with a block or blanket or bolster, you'll bend one knee into the chest, followed by the other. Plant your feet down to lift the hips and move the prop out of the way. You're just legs inverted. You'll just bend one knee, followed by the other. Plant one foot down, followed by the other. Those of you who inverted and stayed on your mat, away from the wall, you can take that constructive rest where you walk your feet apart, knees buckle in, and give yourself a hug. Put the arms around the chest. Take a breath with each arm on top. If your legs up the wall, you can just kind of hug the knees in if you walk them down as you prepare for Shavasana. Or you can stay put with your legs just vertical and your spine perpendicular to your legs. And find Shavasana, maybe a bolster under the knees, a blanket under the head, or a blanket to cover. You have socks or sleeves you want to put on, add those on. We'll be here for several minutes, so get cozy, get comfortable. And this is the pose where the dust gets to settle, right? So what effort we've created in opening kind of sinks in. It settles into the organs. It settles into the moment, the muscles, the tissue. Try to settle in. Let the ground beneath you support you. Feel yourself as if you were laying on a beach and the sand beneath you is just holding you up and molding each grain of sand, doing its part to hold you up. And form around you so your body can just sink and settle in. The deeper the surrender, the more you let go, the heavier that release. You find yourself wandered off to a different place, a different time. Be generous with yourself. See if you can surrender back to the moment at hand, come back to your body, come back to the space, come back to where you are and as you are. Try to just be. Any clinging, any grasping, allowing it to be surrendered. Begin to deepen your breath. It's bringing a greater effort and awareness there first. So the lungs expand on the inhale, belly, side ribs, collarbone, upper back. As you exhale, feel yourself melt and soften. Front body, back body. Breathe in, feel yourself expand, taking up space, filling up. And exhale, a little gentle drop in. As you stretch out the breath, stretch out the fingers, the toes, the neck and shoulders, head from side to side. Maybe a long stretch with the arms overhead and the big toes kissing. You can hug the knees into your chest or just walk your feet in. Sometimes it feels nice to just feel our feet on the ground. Keep ourselves rooted in the moment. Then over onto a side or rocking to seated, you'll find a nice long spine. Allow your shoulders to gently drop up as you inhale, exhale. Then back and down. Find the sit bones rooted down, the crown lifted high, and the palms in union over the heart. A dip of the chin towards the chest, a moment of gratitude for your effort, your dedication, and this practice, reminding us of our union deep within. Bowing to this moment and to ourselves in time. Namaste.